Yeah, friends, I hope that my voice is audible and the screen is visible. So, yesterday, what we have discussed that in software development life cycle, the starting phase will be, of course, there are other phases will be there, but in implementation of the application, the developers will be writing the source code. And the same source code has to be deployed into the server. And if it is deployed into the server, the environment should be same as that of the dev environment. That means if it is deployed in the QA environment, it is bound to fail because of some differences in the dependencies and the operating system version conflicts. So to avoid that, we have the concept of containers. In containers, what we will do is we will containerize the application. That means we will run the application in a box. Okay, so how it works, I will tell you now. This is hardware, and let's suppose that it is having memory of about 32 GB. Okay, I'm keeping the CPU and disk space aside as of now. And this is the system configuration. And let's suppose that this is Ubuntu machine. Okay, this is Ubuntu machine. Ubuntu 18.0. Then to create the containers, we need to install Docker. And for your information, there are different tools to run the containers like Podman, okay, and Rocket. But to be frank, nowadays, okay, somebody is saying, Dhananjay, today is my first class, I'm not able to understand. So please go through the yesterday recording. Okay, so yesterday's thing is important, and even if you don't understand that, that is fine, you can attend this class. Okay, so now this is Ubuntu operating system, and we need to install Docker in this. Docker is a containerization tool. Docker is a containerization tool. So that means we can run the containers in this machine. This is the host operating system and this is host machine. We can run the containers in the same hardware. That means, for example, if you want to have CentOS operating system, the CentOS operating system can be installed same machine using containers. But here, before understanding this, let me take you to that particular notes. I have to disable the screen share for some time. I will stop sharing once I go to the. Okay, so my notes. So here, so the most important thing here is this picture. This picture. Okay, so I will copy the same thing to our notes here. See, if you see here, okay, so here our motto is to get a guest operating system in the same host machine. In the same host machine. This is a host machine. Okay. So earlier, before invention of the containers, we have hypervisor. Okay. And to install this hypervisor, some amount of system resources will be utilized. Okay, for that matter, to install any application in our machine, some amount of CPU and memory will be utilized. Likewise, to install this tool, some amount of CPU and memory will be utilized. And we are creating virtual machine, and this is called as guest operating system, and this is called as the host operating system. And here, this virtual machine or this guest operating system is a full-fledged operating system. What does it mean by full-fledged operating system? For example, if you install Hyper-V, then if you want to install this guest operating system like Windows, Ubuntu, or CentOS or Mac OS, first we have to download the image. What image? That Ubuntu image, Ubuntu 18 iOS download. Let's go to here, the official documentation of Ubuntu, and here, so if I click on this, okay, so see how much of size it is of. It is of about 2.3 GB. Okay, so we have to install this ISO in case of this hypervisor. Okay, so we have to install the full-fledged operating system. Even if you are installing this ISO file in a new hardware, only this file will be used. And when you are trying to use this hypervisor also, the same ISO file you have to use. Here, the guest operating system is a full-fledged operating system which consists of the operating system and its kernel and other applications. And here, the developer one wants to develop the application A, and for that he has to install some libraries. Okay, so once this is done, what he needs to do is he has to save these files in the central server called as repos. Okay, but we discussed what is the situation if we want to deploy this in the QA environment. So there we have to install the operating system, we have to install libraries and other dependencies, and then we have to deploy the application A. And in that case, there is no guarantee that the application will be successfully running in the QA environment. So for that, the software industry came up with the concept of containers, where the application along with its libraries will be packed together in a file called as image, and this image, this Docker image, will be stored in some central server called as container registries. From there, the same box will be deployed into the QA environment. Okay. QA environment. So this kind of containers are created using a tool called Docker. See, here we are installing Docker and we are spinning up the guest operating system here as well. We are spinning up guest operating system here as well. But what's the difference here? If you see, in case of Hyper-V, we are installing the full-fledged operating system, which is as heavy as if you are installing the operating system in a brand new hardware. Okay, but coming to the container technology, of course, we are installing Docker here. Okay, and we are spinning up the guest operating system. And if you see here, these operating systems are not heavy. Why they are not heavy means, here in this case, we are installing full-fledged operating system But in this case, we don't install full-fledged operating system. Instead, these virtual machines called containers will be utilizing the underlying operating system kernel. Okay, so here for every virtual machine, we have to install full-fledged operating system as we did here. That is one thing. And what is the use of this setup here is, here the image to create this particular guest operating system is of weight about 2.5 GB gigabytes. But coming to this, as these containers are using the underlying operating system kernel, these are very lightweighted. They are less than 100 MB in some cases. Even we can get the containers which are about 2 to 4 MB also. Here, if you want to run Ubuntu operating system, it is about 2.5 GB. But if you want to run the Ubuntu in a container, it will be about less than 100 MB. Where is 2.5 GB? Where is 100 MB? How many times it is lesser? Okay, so that is one of the advantage. What is the advantage of that particular feature is, you will understand that in Kubernetes, these containers can be spinned up within no time. But to spin up this virtual machine, it takes about 30 to 40 minutes. But here, within 1 or 2 seconds, we can bring up these containers. And in the containers, application will be running as it is running here. So if you see here, the guest operated full-fledged operating system is there, but it is not required in this case. And other thing is we have to dedicate the system resources up front in this case. That means, for example, if our memory is about 32 GB, okay, so when we are trying to spin up this machine, you have to dedicate some amount here. Let's suppose that 8 GB. Whether you use this 8 GB or not, it will be dedicated for this particular machine, and this 8 GB won't be 8 GB or any amount from this particular quota won't be available for other virtual machines. But in this case, that is not the case. We don't dedicate the resources upfront in case of containers. Okay, so containers will be utilizing the underlying system resources as they want. Okay, so based on the requirement they will consume. We don't dedicate that. Okay, if this container is just requiring about 2 to 3 MB of memory, that's it. The remaining memory will be available freely, and that will be available for these running containers. And these are also, if these containers are also not utilizing the maximum amount, then that will be still left free in our host machine, and that will be available for the other containers. That is one thing. What are the two features, the two main features? Here, we eliminated the need for installing full-fledged operating system. So with that, these virtual machines can be spinned up within no time. And in case of this setup, we will dedicate the resources upfront for the virtual machines, but here we don't need to do that. Of course, we can create restrictions and requests and limits, which you will understand, but that is not mandatory. This is one thing. So here, out of this 8 GB, some amount of memory will be utilized for to just install the operating system, and only few amount of or only little amount of memory is available for the actual application. But here, as we have eliminated the need for installing full-fledged operating system, the most of the resources will be available for the application A. Okay, so this is, now let's understand this setup. What is Docker? What is containers? How to create these containers? All these things we will understand. And one very important thing here is, for example, let's suppose that this application A we want to run in the container, and that application A should be running in the original operating system, then only it will be runnable in the container. That means, for example, let's suppose that this is our Ubuntu machine. Okay. So in this, let's try to run some application called application X. Let's suppose that this application X is not compatible with the Linux machine. Then this application can't be run inside the container, for the simple reason that the container will be utilizing the underlying operating system kernel. And if this application X is unable to run in the Ubuntu, the full-fledged Ubuntu operating system, we can't run this in the container. That is one of the simple and important point. Okay. What I mean to say is, if you have some application and you want to run it in the Ubuntu operating system, and if it is failing there, it will also fail in the container. Okay. So that because the containers will be utilizing the parent kernel. That is the thing. So now let's well into the discussion of Docker. What is Docker? Docker is a containerization tool. That means to run the containers, we need a tool called Docker. Without Docker, we can't run the container. Then what is containerization? Here I said that Docker is a containerization tool. Then what is containerization? Containerization means the process of making or creating containers is called as containerization. Very simple, no confusion here. This is just a process. Containerization is a process of creating containers. That is fine. If this is the process of creating containers, then what is container? What is container? Container is nothing but a running instance of a Docker image is called as container. A running instance of a Docker image. That means the running state of a Docker image is called as container. Again, we have to understand what is Docker image. If the container is running instance of a Docker image, then what is Docker image? That we need to understand. Docker image is nothing but application. Listen carefully. Application along with its dependencies packed together in a file. Okay, so it's a package of application along with its dependencies. Okay, so application and its dependencies we are wrapping up in a file. We are compressing them in a file. We are packaging them, and that file will be called as Docker image. What does it mean? For example, if you are from DevOps or if you are from any technology, in recent days, you may be aware of Jenkins. Okay, so Jenkins we can run inside the container. Okay, first let's understand. To install Jenkins in Ubuntu machine, we have to install the required dependencies for Jenkins. Okay, Jenkins is a Java-based tool. You know that we have to install Java and other dependencies then only we can install Jenkins. And Jenkins here is the application, and Java and other dependencies are okay. Java and other libraries are dependencies for Jenkins. So what we do is the dependencies for Jenkins application and the Jenkins application itself will be packaged, and that package will be called as Docker image, and we will learn how to create our own Docker image for our applications. That is called as containerization of the application. Okay. Now, first, let's see the Jenkins. Installing Jenkins in Ubuntu. Okay, so this is fine. If I come here, so let's choose that Debian. So here, first thing is to install Jenkins. These are the minimum hardware requirements, and this is the recommended hardware configuration. And other thing is we need to have these softwares installed, and especially the Java. Then we have to execute these commands. Then only the Jenkins will be up. And you may be facing already that when we are executing these many commands, obviously there is a chance for failure of one or the other command, and ultimately what will happen? The application will be failed to run. So this is a requirement for Jenkins, and some of the requirements may be here as well. So what we do is we will package the Jenkins application, the actual Jenkins application, which is installed from here. We will package the Jenkins application and along with its dependencies in a file, and that file will be called as a Docker image. So image is nothing but a file which consists of the actual application and its dependencies. Then when we execute this Docker image, then that is called as container. Simply, for example, let's suppose that we have downloaded some file. What we do, we will just double click on that file and we will run the file. So when we downloaded that file you can imagine as an image. And once we run it, it will be coming into running state. Then that can be analogous to container. As simple as that. And of course, we will see in a more understanding way when we are doing the practical things. Okay, so this is fine. Now, where this Docker can be installed? Docker can be installed anywhere. It can be installed in Windows. It can be installed in Ubuntu. But in real time, we will be installing Docker in Linux machines only. So that's why we will strictly adhere to the real-time platform. So what I will do is I will get the Ubuntu machine from AWS and I will install Docker in that. Okay. And if you want to install Docker in your Windows machine, you have to install Docker desktop, and along with that, you have to install Windows subsystem for Linux. Why we need to install Windows subsystem for Linux? Because we will deal with the Linux based containers, and the Linux based containers requires Linux kernel that can be got from the particular Windows subsystem for Linux. Okay, so that is thing. Of course, we will be using the Ubuntu machine only. So if you want to install Docker, you can simply install Docker in the Ubuntu without having the WSL and other things. Okay, that is fine. Then, so first Docker image, we will run the image, and that will become the container. So this process is called containerization. For containerization, we use a tool called Docker, and to orchestrate the container, we have another tool called as Kubernetes, which we'll cover in this course. Now, how to run the containers? to run a container, we have to have Docker image for that container. Okay, so now let's understand other terms. Docker host. Docker host, the machine in which Docker is installed. Okay, so what we are doing? We are trying to install Docker in this machine, and if we install Docker in this particular machine, then that machine can be called as Docker host because it is hosting the Docker software. Okay, what is Docker host? Docker host is nothing but a machine in which Docker is installed. Okay, so that is then Docker client. To run the containers, we have to run Docker commands, and for that we use Docker client. The Docker client is nothing but a Docker CL itself, Docker command line interface. We will see that as well. Then all these Docker images will be saved in some central server called as registries. What is it? Registries, and more specifically container registries. Okay, so container registry means central server where Docker images are stored. Okay, so what is container registry? Container registry is a central server where all the Docker images will be saved or stored. In case of source code, what we have repositories, but to store these container images, we have the container registry. So in container registry, what will be stored? In container registry, container images will be stored, not the containers. Okay, in container registries, container images will be stored, not the containers. And the best example for container registry is Docker Hub. Okay, Docker Hub. And we have other things, that is Arbor. We have ECR, Elastic Content Registries, ACR, we will see, and you have GCR and other content registries as well. And in JFrog also, we can store these particular container images. That is fine. Now, what I will do is I will try to create easy to instance, because this is my Windows machine. I don't want to install Docker in this. Instead, what I want to do is I want to install Docker in the Ubuntu machine, because that is what we will be doing in the real time. So for that, what I want to do is I want to create Ubuntu machine in AWS EC2 service. So for that, what I need to have is I need to have the AWS account, and I will log into that AWS management console, aws.amazon.com. Okay, if you don't have account with AWS, you can create it. For that, you need to have an email address and debit card or credit card with international transactions enabled. Okay, so that is, and anyway, that is not part of our course. So I'm just going to the AWS console directly. And what I need to do is, and I want to log in as root user. Okay, so this is my email address, and I have to give this Jdbc75CM. I'm pouring captchas, friends. As and AWS captchas are somewhat complicated relatively, and I'm giving my password. I have already my AWS account. I'm connecting to it. So I logged into it. So by default, I'm in North Virginia. I want to switch to Mumbai region, which is Asia Pacific or AP South 1. Okay, so here I click on services and click on compute for beginners. Okay, click on compute and click on EC2. So this is beyond our scope, but still I want to cover this, friends, because if you don't have the Ubuntu machine, you won't be getting practical exposure. So that's why I'm telling you how to create EC2 instance and I'm giving the basic steps. Okay, this is the EC2 dashboard and this is a new EC2. We have in AWS two experiences. One is old experience and new experience. Experience in the sense the UI, how the UI will look like. Okay, so that is, but the options and everything will be same. And click on instances here. In Mumbai region, I don't have any instances. Okay, clear the filter. Click on launch instance. What I'm doing all this, I want to get some Ubuntu machine. Okay, so now, so because we are trying to install Docker in the machine, I'm giving the machine name as a Docker host. Okay, you can give any name. It's not just the Docker host because meaningfully I'm giving. Now let me give as Docker host dev. For dev environment, I want to use it. Okay, this is how we will be doing that in the real time. So then we have to choose the Amazon machine image AMI. So I want to use Ubuntu 18. So Ubuntu 18.04 long-term support. Okay, so I'm choosing the pre-tier eligible machine that is enough for us. This is T2.micro, which consists of one virtual CPU and 1 GB of memory, and it comes under T2 family. Okay, and these are the pricings and everything. So now here we need to create new key pair. If you have the key pair already, you can use it, but I want to create new key pair. And I want to name it the key pair as Docker key pair 2. Okay, key pair. Let's give the date. We can give, and I want to default. Let's use pen. Create key pair. With that, what will happen? That key pair will be created and it will be downloaded into our local machine. Okay, so this got downloaded. It will be there in our downloads folder. Okay, so then next, what settings we need to provide? We have to provide VPC. I want to use the default VPC and I want to select the existing security group. And the security group I want to select is default security group, and then the storage and everything I want to keep default. Then once you give all these options, just click on launch instance at this location. Okay, this is fine. Now what we have done?
So we have created a Ubuntu machine.
AWS cloud. This is our laptop here. We'll mesh. How to connect to this machine? To connect to how to connect to this? To connect to this, we should have SSH client in our environment, and you must be aware of PuTTY. Okay, and some of you may also know the mobile XTERM, which is a beautiful tool. Okay, so I want to use mobile XTERM. So what I want to do, our machine is there in the EC2. Okay, so here if you click on view all instances, if you refresh here, see that machine got created. This is an Ubuntu machine. Click on this. We got the public IP address and username for this you can get from here. Click on connect. So this is the instance ID. This is the public IP address and this is the username. Now, how to connect to this? For that, what I said is we should have SSH client and preferably we will use MobaXterm. How to install MobaXterm? That is another question. Okay, just go to our notes, just copy this link and go to this particular page. Okay, so here click on MobaXterm Home Edition, Portable Edition. Click on it. Nikhil, you can hear me, right?
Sorry, you are breaking.
Sorry, your voice is breaking, and also there was a delay in the video, sir.
Oh,
So
okay. You must be telling that, right? You must be telling that, right?
yeah, sometimes it is getting
Okay.
better.
Wait a moment. I will.
Right
Okay.
side,
Wait
it's
a moment,
happening.
friends. I will switch. Okay. Okay. I will switch to different network.
Hello, sir.
Yeah, friends, I am on mute. I want to switch to different network. Wait a moment, friends, please. Okay, friends. I hope I'm audible now.
Sir,
So,
sorry, excuse me, sir.
see,
Sir, after launching that machine, Ubuntu machine, what we have to do? Because because that network issue, I am not able to
okay,
follow.
okay, sure, sure. Okay, I will tell you. So we have created the Ubuntu machine, and this Ubuntu machine is there in the AWS cloud, somewhere in the Mumbai data center. Okay, so now we have to connect to this Ubuntu machine. Okay, from our local. For that, we should have some SSH client because this Linux will be connected through SSH protocol. For that, we need to have SSH client. So that SSH client that I want to use here is MobaXterm. You may be aware of PuTTY, but I'm not in favor of PuTTY. I want to use another tool called MobaXterm. How to install that MobaXterm? I'm telling you now. And friends, I'm again telling you, if you are not understanding or if something is with my network, you to tell at that time. Otherwise, you will be missing the things. Okay. So now, how to install MobaXterm? For that, in our notes, we have this link. Copy this link, okay, and paste it here. So with that, see, click on this. If you click on this, our MobaXterm will be downloaded. It is nothing but a zip file. It is a zip file. I'm stopping my screen share for some time because I want to go to the downloaded folder. Okay. Okay, that is fine. Okay, so this MobaXterm is now being downloaded and it will be downloaded into our local machine. So once it is downloaded, we have to extract the zip. We have to extract the zip. Once we extract the zip, see, we will be having these files. Okay, so now what we need to do, we have to double click on it. We have to double click on it. We don't need to set any environment variable or system variables. You just have to double click on that. If you double click on that, mobile XTerm will be open. This is the mobile XTerm. Then click on session. You won't be having all these things when you connect to it. Okay, click on session here. Okay, so first what you do is click on SSH. Click on SSH. And in this, in place of remote host, what you need to do is you have to give the public IP address of the EC2 instance. Where is our EC2 instance? This is. So this is the public IP address of the EC2 instance. Copy that here. What is the username? For Ubuntu machines, it will be Ubuntu. If it is Amazon Linux, it will be EC2-user. If it is CentOS, it will be CentOS. That you will be understanding from this connect. Okay, so this is the username is Ubuntu here. So I'm using the same here, the Ubuntu. Then, and if you remember, when we are creating these EC2 machines, we have downloaded the key pair that is called as PIM file because its extension is PIM. So click on advanced SSH settings, click on use private key, and it will be enabled. If you click on this, you will be able to browse the file. Okay, so go to downloads. Okay, so in this download, this is the key that we have downloaded. Double click on it and click on OK. With this, now from our local machine, we connected to this remote machine over SSH protocol. So we are into the Ubuntu machine. This is the terminal, and this is the file browser for this particular machine, friends. Okay, so you can download these files, you can upload the files and everything. Okay, so now that is. Now I want to increase the font size. For that, what I can do is press Ctrl and scroll up. In mouse, you can use the middle button. So with it, it will be scrolled up. Okay, that is fine. I want to clear the screen. For that, we use clear. Then we logged in as Ubuntu user. Then what is our desire? Our desire is to install Docker in that machine. How to install Docker? We don't need to go anywhere. Just go to our documentation and what we can do is see, use these commands. First, we should log in as a root user. This is the command to switch to the root user. Okay, so now we are in root user. Then after that, use this curl command to get the Docker installation script, and that script we are trying to save in the getdocker.sh file. Just hit enter. So with that, this file will be created, and in that file, whatever the script that is there in this path, that will be copied into it. Now this is a shell script. We have to execute it. How to execute shell script? There are different ways, and this is one of the way. Just use sh and the scripting you have to use. So with that, the shell script will be executed to install Docker in this machine. And this is Ubuntu machine, and we are installing Docker in this. So that's why I can call this machine as Docker host. What is Docker host? The machine in which Docker is installed is called as the Docker host. Now, so it will take about 2 to 3 minutes only, not more than that. When the Docker is installed in this, how to interact with the Docker software? For that, we use Docker client called as Docker CLI. That means a Docker command line interface. Docker command line interface is nothing but what? Docker, and this CLI will be installed when we install Docker. So we are installing Docker, and when we install Docker, by default Docker CLI will also be installed. How to check whether Docker got installed or not? Docker -- version. Okay, so Docker is installed. Now just type Docker. See, we're able to see the commands which are related to Docker CLI. It's fine. I'm clearing the screen again. Now we have Docker installed in our machine. Okay, then how to run the container? To run the container, the requirement is we should have the image for that container. For example, just to show you how to run Jenkins. To run Jenkins, we should have Jenkins Docker image. Then where will I find the Docker image for Jenkins? As I said, the images will be stored in some central servers called as container registry, and the default container registry is Docker Hub. Where is Docker Hub? Just go to your browser, just type hub.docker.com. This is the Docker Hub. We don't need to have any account with the Docker to download the existing images. Then why to register here? That we will see going forward. Now, what I want to do is I want to run Jenkins application in container. To run Jenkins application in container, we should have Jenkins Docker image. That images will be there in the Docker Hub, and search for Jenkins here. See here what it is saying, Jenkins Docker official image, but here it is saying again, it is deprecated, so use Jenkins/Jenkins:/LTS instead. So that means this is deprecated. It is asking us to use Jenkins/Jenkins, so that is this one. Of course, you will understand the tags and everything in the course. Okay, so this is the official Docker image for the Jenkins. Now, let me draw the picture. Now, let's suppose that this is our Docker host machine where Docker is installed. Okay, and so we just now we have seen that the Jenkins image is there in the Docker Hub. Jenkins image there in the Docker Hub. The Jenkins image there in the Docker Hub. What is image? Image is nothing but what? Application along with its dependencies called as what? Image. So this image is stored in the central server called as Docker image. To run the container from this image, first we have to download this image into the Docker host machine. Docker image is there in the Docker Hub. Okay, but we can run the containers in the Docker host machine. To run the container, we need to have the container image, and image will be there in the Docker Hub. We have to download this image into our Docker host machine. Okay. This image, we are downloading it. This image is nothing but the Jenkins application along with its dependencies. Now you may be getting some question like why it is Jenkins slash Jenkins, why the slash is there, why these two things are. You will understand that later. Okay, don't worry about that. Now, this is just an image. This is not application in running form. This is in static form. This is just a file which contains the Jenkins application and its dependencies. Now, how to run content, how to launch the application. For that, we have to create a container from this particular image. And I will represent the container with this particular image. Okay, so this is what container, and inside this container, the Jenkins application will be running. It is running inside the container means the application is isolated from other applications. So it is running inside a container. Now, how to achieve that? How to download this Jenkins image? Okay, and how to launch the container? This is what we are trying to learn. But today, just to show you, I will just explain you the difference between the container world and the non-container world. Now let's go to Jenkins. How to install Jenkins first? So first we need to have these things. These are the system requirements, and we have to install Java in that. And after that, we have to run all these commands. Then only we'll be able to run the Jenkins. And even after running all these commands, there is no guarantee that Jenkins will be successfully running. There is always a possibility for the Jenkins to be failed. Okay. And to perform all these steps, it requires some time. You have to execute all these commands. The operating system should support it. Okay. So you know how much time it will take. It will take about 15 to 20 minutes if everything is fine. Okay. But I want to show you how to launch Jenkins in the container. First, what we need to do, we have to pull the Jenkins image into our Docker host machine. How to download the image? Docker pull Jenkins / Jenkins is the image. Of course, we will see it tomorrow. I'm just showing you. These are image layers, which we will understand later. Now the image is downloaded. How to check the image? For that, Docker image ls is the command. See, I'm using Docker. This is the Docker CLI to interact with the Docker engine, which will be running as a daemon process in the background. So now I want to get the list of images that are there in the Docker host machine and hit enter. See, this is the image that we have, and it has some ID assigned with it. It was created 26 minutes ago. Updated minutes 26 minutes ago in this, but it will show something like created. But this image was created long ago, friends. It was just updated 26 minutes ago. What is its size? The image size is 471 MB. And this image consists of what? The Jenkins application and its dependencies. Now, this is Jenkins file. This is Jenkins Docker image. How to run the container? For that, we have to use run command. Okay, so I will tell you. Just quickly, I will show you today. I'll just to give you a feel of running Jenkins. See how much time it will take. So here in the non-container world, you have to perform all these activities. First, we have to install Java and we have to perform all these activities. But in container world, I'm just using single command and check how much time it will. That's it, friends. Our Jenkins is up. Jenkins is now up. It is running. How to check it? Just copy the public IP address and give the port 9090. You will understand everything from tomorrow onwards. Friend, just I'm giving what just copy the public IP address of our machine and use what's the port 9090. See, my Jenkins is up. How much time it took for me to launch the Jenkins? I'm pinging the same URL in the chat box also. Please, any one of you hit and tell me whether you are able to see the Jenkins homepage. How much time it took, friends? Within no time, with just immediately after hitting this command, we are able to bring up the Jenkins. This is the power of containers.
Is asking for administrator password.
Yeah, that is fine. Okay, we have to enter
Yeah.
password and everything.
Yeah, it's
So
okay.
you are accessing Jenkins, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Likewise, we can run Nginx or Tomcat in no time. So now let's try to run Nginx. Okay. So now let's run Nginx. So just Nginx server I'm running and see how much time it will take. Just it is downloading the image. We will learn this also. This is to download the image that won't be considered. See, within no time, Jenkins is up. This Tomcat is up. Sorry, Nginx port is 32768. 32768. See, Nginx is up. Same like this, we can bring up any application using the containers within no time. Okay. So tomorrow onwards, we will understand what are the different commands, how to create our own Docker image, how to run the container. All these things we will understand in this course. That's it for today, friends. If you have any questions, you can ask me. Otherwise, we can wind up this session. And Dhananjay, you are asking for the videos and all this, and they will be sending this through the mail. Okay, so they will send the demo class through the mail. Demo class in the sense the class is continuation. Okay, and we will be eligible for this class till Friday or Saturday, and from Monday onwards, link will be changed, and the people who have paid for it will be getting the new link. Okay, and classes will be continued from that day. Okay, so you will be eligible for the classes up to Friday or Saturday. You can freely come to this class. Meanwhile, you can pay it, and those who paid, they only will get the class notes through the Google Drive. Okay, so if you want to practice, make sure that you are paying as soon as possible. Of course, so those details will be you can get from the institute people. I think they have already pinged all these details in the chat box. Yeah, that's it for today, friends.
No, we didn't. I didn't receive the payment details and all.
In the chat
After
box,
the
they have
registration.
pinned. No. If you go to the chat box, today's chat box, so they have given the phone numbers and everything. I can see that in the chat box. Dhananjay.
No, actually, yeah, I also missed the. Actually, I didn't join when they sent the message in chat box. That's why it's not showing to us.
Maybe you can repost.
Oh, yes.
Okay, got it. I will post it here again. Okay, I have pasted it.
Laxman, one more thing. For this Ubuntu instance to be created on the AWS, you have the paid account for this, or we can with the free account?
Paid account. We should have free account only, but we should provide the debit card details there. For 12 months, free tier account will be there. Okay, and if you are using other services, definitely it will be charged. It's not something like free. we have to use the prudently. There's some services will be given free. If I use in other regions, I have some resources. For that, I will the billing will happen. But here I have chosen the free tier eligible thing. Okay,
I
when we
mean,
are launching that instance. Yeah.
for this course, do we have to create a paid account? I mean, in future, will there be any need to use the paid services for this particular course?
No, not required. Free account is sufficient. The only thing is for Docker, we will be using this instance. That's it. For Kubernetes, we will be using Elastic Kubernetes service. Okay, Elastic Kubernetes service, and for that we have to pay some time just for practice. If you are practicing at least if you are practicing 1 hour per day, and overall in a month you will be getting a bill less than 1,000 rupees only. Okay, so we have to use in such a way. Got my point, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. So even if it's a free account, if you are using exceeding the limits, then you will be slowly billed for that. Okay. So somebody is asking about the course details. Quickly, I'm telling Docker and Kubernetes is the course name. So you don't need to have any prerequisite for this. Okay, but better to have some AWS knowledge and Linux. Not much. Then the course fee, the classes will be from Monday to Saturday. Class timings are from 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. IST. Then duration is 45 days. Then course fee is 4,000 INR. Okay, we will get live classes plus recordings through Google Drive. Yes, entire material will be shared with you. My material I will share with you. But Docker, it is about approximately 70 pages, and we will be moving to official documentation wherever necessary. And Kubernetes, we have about 100 pages, and this also we will be moving to official documentation wherever necessary. Okay, yeah, that's it for today, friends. Let's move
Even
tomorrow.
just one last question.
Yes, sure.
I'm not in India. So in case if I miss the lecture for one particular day, so this recording will be available on the same day, right?
Yes, yes. In 24 hours, for example, today class is over, right? It won't be available today itself. By tomorrow evening, it will be available.
I mean, before the next lecture, right?
Yes, yes. Before the next
Okay.
lecture, it will be available. Yeah.
Sir, one doubt I have, sir.
Yeah.
So Docker image, it contains that Jenkins along with application and dependencies, right? These three things, right? When you say
Jenkins itself is the application.
So Jenkins itself, application and dependencies.
Yeah, Jenkins application and its dependencies.
So if we want to host our application, we have to put inside Jenkins.
Not like that. For example, Tomcat. Tomcat is there, right?
Yes, yes.
So for front end, you can whatever you are doing in the Linux, the same we will be doing here as well. The same things we will be doing, but we will be doing those things in the container in a box. And you will understand these. You will clear your doubts when we are trying to create our own Docker images. Okay. So when we are creating our own Docker images, you will understand what is actually happening inside it.
So there won't be any guest operating system, right, in this image?
Yes, there won't be any guest operating system.
Okay.
Why I have this doubt is when you say application and dependencies are inside Docker image, that application means what it means, sir?
Application means the jar file or the artifact, the artifact that is related to that application.
Oh, related to this Jenkins, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hi, sir.
Okay. Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah, Vasu, you're asking me any question?
Yes, yes. I have some idea on Azure DevOps and pipelines.
Okay.
I don't know about this AWS and Linux. Those things.
Okay.
Uh,
You have idea on Azure DevOps or Azure Cloud? Azure DevOps, huh? Don't you have idea about Azure Cloud? Azure.
Azure
Okay,
things, you know,
anyway,
it's-
the only thing that you have to get is you should get some Ubuntu machine. So in Azure, we have virtual machine service, right? VMs, that virtual machine. So you can create a virtual machine and you can use the same steps to install Docker. And in EKS, what we will do is we will create the cluster here. We will cluster. You will create the cluster in Azure Kubernetes service. And after that installation, everything is same irrespective of the cloud. Okay.
that name spaces and classes.
Yeah.
Those are
These
two,
are-
no?
Ask me, Vasu.
Okay. Okay, nothing.
Okay. Okay. Thank
So,
you all.
sir, yeah,
Yeah.
sir. So you are also going to show us installing Docker on Azure, right?
No.
Or is
I'm
it
not going
specific?
to do it.
Okay.
So if you are concerned with Azure means you must have some you must be having some Azure knowledge. So just create Ubuntu machine in Azure virtual machine service
Mhm.
and just do whatever we have done here. Just to install and everything is there. So
Okay, all
just
the steps are
install
same.
Docker. How to install Docker? Yeah, you got right. It's
Yes.
not just AWS and Azure. If we have the Ubuntu machine in our on-prem data center, okay, we can
Mhm.
connect to that machine and we can execute these commands.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, friends. Bye.